Hello everyone, and today I'm going to review for you Chanel Pro and Matte Lumiere foundations. And the first thing you guys should know is that I have sensitive skin, I have very dry cheeks, and an oily T-zone. So use that as a reference for all the advice that I give here. In Matte Lumiere, I'm number 14, Ivory, and in Pro Lumiere, I'm number 20, Claire Cameo. I'm going to start off with Pro Lumiere foundation. Pro Lumiere is most famous for its semi-matte finish. It has medium to full coverage and it's best applied with a brush and then smoothed out with the fingers. This foundation was designed for professional photography, which means it's a foundation best suited for anything with harsh lighting involved. You only need 1 pump for medium coverage and 2 pumps for full coverage. When I'm trying to build full coverage with my Pro Lumiere foundation, I apply 1 layer first, so I achieve medium coverage, then I let the foundation set for like a minute or two, and then I'll go back with the second pump and apply it again all over my face. It's not like 1 pump here and 1 pump there. It's like 1 pump and then another pump. Don't be tricked by the word matte and semi-matte because it's not matte at all. The finish is actually very, very glowy. You don't need a highlighter at all. That's how glowy this foundation is. I'm going to show you the texture. As you can see, it drops straight from the tube. That's just reflective of its thinner consistency, and it's already starting to run down my hand. When I blend it in, is slightly tacky. This moisturizes very well. If you are on the normal to oily side, I would suggest using a less hydrating moisturizer. This foundation is best for those with normal skin, but the slightly oily and the slightly dry can wear this very well. Unfortunately, those who are very oily and very dry should not wear this foundation because if you are very dry, it will settle into your fine lines just a bit. If you just have wrinkles around here, it should be okay. But if you have actually very wrinkly skin, for example, much more mature women, I would say over like 50 or so, would probably be best suited for Lift Lumiere foundation rather than Pro Lumiere. I like that it has a slightly thinner texture for a liquid foundation, but I don't like the fact that it's tacky because I have to wait longer for the first layer to set before I apply the second layer when I try to get full coverage. Also, my T-zone is very oily, so I have to apply powder at least on my T-zone when I wear the Pro Lumiere foundation, just because if I don't do that, then my T-zone will be a greasy, oily mess by the middle of the day. It's terrible. If you have very oily skin, just don't get this foundation at all. It's not going to work for you because your whole face is going to look greasy within 3 hours, I guarantee it. Also, if you have acne of any sort, if you don't have relatively flawless skin, Pro Lumiere is not going to work for you because it does settle into blemishes. It won't cover the actual acne or the scars that you may have. The texture also reminds me of Dior's Tinted Moisturizer. They both even out skin tone really well. However, the Pro Lumiere has much better coverage, obviously. Next for the Matte Lumiere. Matte Lumiere is a foundation that provides a soft matte finish. So Pro Lumiere is a semi-matte, and Matte Lumiere is a soft matte. Matte Lumiere is true medium coverage. You could build it a little bit to full, but I wouldn't suggest that. I would say for almost full coverage, 1.5 pumps is perfect. So I would apply 1 pump all over my face, and I would use a half pump to cover up any extra redness along my cheeks or wherever else I need coverage. It has a very heavy velvety consistency. It's not tacky like Pro Lumiere at all, however, so it sets well and it feels nice on your skin. I'm going to show you now. So as you can see, it doesn't drop from the bottom. When you do a full pump, it'll drop because of the weight, obviously gravity, but when you pump out just this much, it holds onto the nozzle. I'm going to blend it out for you. As you can see, it just smooths into the skin and it blends so effortlessly because it is not tacky. Pro Lumiere sticks a little when it spreads. I like to use my fingers with my Matte Lumiere. One thing though is if you're very oily, you should never use your fingers to apply foundation because the oils on your fingers and the oils on your face will spread together and you don't want that because that's just going to encourage oil production later on throughout the day. So if you have very oily skin, I strongly recommend that you use a brush at all times to apply your foundation. The matte Lumiere is supposed to be shine-free for 12 hours, and that's not true. If I do not powder with this foundation, I would say at tops 4 hours, and 5 hours would be just about pushing it. And of course, my T-zone right here starts to get oily first, and that's when I know I have to use a blotting sheet or use a powder to tone it down. If I do powder, however, with a setting powder at the beginning of the day, I would say this foundation lasts about 6 or 7 hours before I have to blot. 8 hours would be ideal, but it doesn't last that way. Good thing about this foundation is that if you don't like a truly flat matte finish, matte Lumiere is going to work for you because this soft matte finish is basically a matte that's glowing. So it controls shine, but it still gives you that luminescence. So you still have a glow, but you just won't have a greasy looking glow. And if you're oily, or if you have an oily T-zone, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There is a difference between dewy and oily/greasy. Basically, what it comes down to is, yes, it can be worn without powder, but if you want it to last, definitely set it with a powder. It will look more matte in the beginning of the day, but as it wears on, you'll just be left with a really, really nice looking glow. This foundation will accentuate fine lines, so it's better for the younger girls. I would say that because it is a creamier, thicker texture, that's why it tends to settle, and obviously that's not ideal. It is one of the better foundations for those who have oily, acne-prone skin, however, because the creaminess does help cover the acne. And even though that's the downfall for those with fine lines, if you are looking for a foundation with enough coverage that doesn't give you a mask look but still can cover your acne, then this would be for you. Like I said, it's not the best for oil control, and acne usually comes with oil production, but if you find a good setting powder and if you find a good touch-up powder, you shouldn't have a problem. Okay, so now for our similarities. They're both oil-free, both have SPF 15, they both come with pumps. However, as you can see, the pump does get clogged, and that's because the opening is so small. And the opening on the matte Lumiere tends to get clogged a little bit more. So that's why you got to make sure you clean it off with each use. They both come with frosted glass bottles and plastic black caps with Chanel logos engraved on the top in white. They each cost $54 plus tax, and they both come with 1 fluid ounce each. And personally, this is how I wear my Chanel foundations. Claire Cameo is too light for me, whereas Ivory is too dark for me. The matte Lumiere is also not matte enough for me, and the Pro Lumiere is too dewy for me. So if I wear these together, I get the perfect finish and the perfect color that I'm looking for. So I get the long wear of the matte Lumiere and the dewiness of the Pro Lumiere. I cannot wear the Pro Lumiere for longer than 4 hours alone, even with powder, just because the foundation is not meant to last long. The formula is meant for photo shoots, runways, and the like, for professionals in the beauty industry. So this is not a long-wearing foundation, especially if you wear it by itself. If I wear this alone without powder, I look like a greasy mess, and I don't really have foundation on my face after 4 hours. But when I wear them together, it's the perfect combination for a dewy foundation that's not too over the top with the perfect amount of medium plus coverage. So in conclusion, if you have relatively flawless skin and you're looking for a foundation that will even out your skin tone and has buildable coverage, definitely go with the Pro Lumiere. If you're looking for a foundation that will help reduce the oil without making you look like you're wearing a mask, and you do have certain skin issues like acne, go with the matte Lumiere. If you are normal to slightly dry, Pro Lumiere. If you are normal to oily, matte Lumiere. I hope you guys found this review helpful. I'm sorry it took me so long to post this video, but if you have any further questions, feel free to leave them below in the comments.